genetic modification is going to be allowed into the industry and how much that will come into effect over the coming years?
I think it could play a huge role depending on how regulations are wrote. For me, I do all natural breeding cycles, use male and female.
Yeah.
I don't even like the genetically modifying all the way to feminized seed, but that's just me personally.
I'm
I'm
with
sure.
you, man. I just don't want it. I'm purely about those males and females just as they've always been.
Yeah, just because the male, if the male is not, if it's missing in the breeding cycle, you miss all that chromosomes, from the male. And I personally think that is a big part of immune system. A lot of feminized seed tend to not have as strong of immune systems and stuff like that. But yeah, they're preparing, in my opinion, to make genetically modified seed to prevent, to try to build immune systems through GMO. But
Yeah.
and eventually they'll be able to patent it when it goes nationally legal here. I don't know how they do it in Canada since it's nationally legal there. But I do see that as a threat. I personally I grow from clone after I pheno hunt, so that's something that you know it's we'll see how it goes. But yeah, anything that can control the market, they're all sitting around, trying to figure out how do we do this to control the market? How do we do that? And it's ugly, like
I'm just sure GMO weed is coming, like genetically modified, not strain, but like it's coming, and I think it's another reason they waited till now to legalize, till they've kind of figured out all that kind of thing in other crops. And I read a really, really good book once called Seeds of Destruction by I think it's F. William Engdahl, and he shows that just the very act of tinkering with the genetics, just with messing with genes and their order, their natural sequence in any way, ended up causing mutations and tumors in the mammals that went on to consume that. Just that. It's not like they're even like deliberately doing anything nasty as such, but just the act of CRISPR and tinkering with genes and would cause mutations in mammals that then consumed it. So I just think there's going to be this fucked up kind of satanic law of reversal whereby the plant that used to cure cancer and all that will become something that's carcinogenic.
Yeah, man.
yeah, I call it frankenfood, like
Yeah,
stuff that's
exactly.
genetically modified food. It's frankenfood,
Yeah, yeah.
and
And like it causes all these gut problems people have is because it causes gut leaks and stuff like that because of the BT uh, thing that they put into it. But what was I going to say? I've got off my little point a sec. But yeah, that book I highly recommend that anybody to read that Seeds of Destruction. And yeah, I don't want GM to be any part of cannabis whatsoever, or any fucking or any animal or any plant. And they've
well,
just done it
that's
to us most likely with this fucking vaccine that's got out. Well, not to me, but
So I saw this doctor, uh cannabis, or cannabis PhD, I'm pretty sure. And he was talking about how he was injecting something into cannabis cells to make them go have extra chromosomes, literally, like to turn them into triploides and like polyploides, like how you were saying, Medman. So like, what do you guys think about that? Like trying to do that in that nature of like forcing the plant.
you
Well,
know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
polyploidies actually do happen naturally
Yeah.
in hemp and cannabis. I using chemicals, what's it called?
culture scene.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what the actual long-term effects are, but I do know that you will get bigger stalks. And I knew the guy that wrote the book. I have 3 signed copies. I got to hang out with him just before he died. His name was Billy Budd, and he was the first guy that I was aware of that was really pushing polyploidies for medical use because polyploids were producing more THC and more yield. So frankly, I don't really know what that type of adding a chromosome in triploids and there's octoploids even. What is that impact on human consumption?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know scientifically. From what I heard, he was saying that you still have the same genes, they're just spread out differently, but I don't know if that's just like how true that is and how much testing there is into this.
I think that at the end of the day, you'll see in hemp, a lot of the countries that are legalizing hemp, they're making it required that they start from seed. And so they're creating feminized hemp seed that you have to buy every year. And they're making it part of the regulations. And so they're able to patent those seeds. And so that I could see that potentially happening in cannabis, but you would have to ban clones. You'd have to ban natural seed. It's one of those things where I don't know if they're going to pull that off, but my personal opinion, I mean, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know very many terms on it, but I believe in natural breeding cycles, pheno hunting and stress testing the plant, putting it under pressure to see if it can handle it. Because a lot of weak genetics, you put it under a little bit of pressure and it'll throw weird leaves and all kinds of shit. And so I just believe in a more natural process for breeding. It takes a little longer than if you're doing feminized seed. But at the same time, feminized seed's been very popular all the way since the 90s, because when you're a novice and you're buying seeds online, you want feminized seed because you don't want to pick male from female and all that. So I understand why growers do it, because the demand is there. I just if you're growing for a commercial level, like I wouldn't start from there. I would start from natural bred cycles that had a male involved. But the thing is at the end of the day, it's like, the people that I grew up around that taught me how to grow were always talking about the reason why cannabis is illegal is because you can't patent it. And that's, it's a plant. You can't patent it unless it's genetically modified. And so the only way that they're going to get that way is if they get the regulations to require it be genetically modified so they can control it through patents. But it's the same thing like with pharmaceutical drugs, like they control who can make it. Those patents are priceless, and that's one of the things that a lot of big businesses I can see getting into cannabis. They're gonna be like, okay, how do we get our IP in this and make people use it and whatever else? But not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but as long as we can do everything naturally, I think it's gonna win in the market personally.
It's not a rabbit hole because if we go back to the UK to GW Pharmaceuticals, David Watson, aka Sam the No Skunk Man, he was their lead consultant and genetic donor. And I can't say because I don't know the agreement that they had, but he actually is on LinkedIn, and I can't verify the post, but Watson, someone shared the screenshot with me, and basically he was saying through GW Pharmaceuticals in the UK that he can't wait until they patent one of his strains because it's in 80% of all the varieties out there. And basically, he, from my understanding from the post, and I'm not trying to cherry pick, that he basically wants to sue all these producers through patent law, as another capital, like a way to capitalize on cannabis without even having to grow it. So that was a pretty scary post, and he has a very there's always two or three sides to the story, but he definitely, from a business perspective, once again, it's very elegant and very cunning, but what does that mean for everybody else? So GW is already moving in that direction, and they probably already have been. It could have probably been their plan from day one even.
Well, I think that's like, is it on that EU seed finder? Anything only goes back as far as skunk number one. When you
Well,
trace
he
when it's
was,
got all the lineages, it goes back to skunk number one always, doesn't it? Which is allegedly what fucking Watson created.
and
That's
that, like I
so
said,
that's so stupid because like can't you just disprove this by getting something that came before skunk number one, then testing it and saying like, oh look, I found this and it says it has 80% skunk in it, but it literally comes from before your time. It's impossible that you could have fucked with
Well,
this.
these skunks that I got predate Watson shit by a long time because it's the old timer one. They started that in the late 60s and early 70s,
Oh
way
man,
before
it's just
fucking
so
Watson
weird.
even went to fucking Holland in 85 or 84, whenever it was.
well, it's tantamount to what Monsanto was doing in Canada. Monsanto was hiring truckers to drive through all of the
Oh, yeah.
prairie provinces with GMO seeds without
Yeah.
covers.
Yeah.
And these seeds were blowing into all these
Yeah.
old farmers' fields. Like we're talking about families that have been farming for 200 years or
Yeah.
however long.
Yeah.
And then they tracked the truck's route and then they sent out Monsanto agents to the farmland.
Yeah.
And then the agents were finding the Monsanto GMO crops on these people's property. And then Monsanto was suing those families. And I think only one person out of like 200 lawsuits kept their farms under patent law.
Yeah, that's
It's
exactly right. I remember reading that in that book that I mentioned, Seeds of Destruction. It talks exactly about what you've just outlined there. And you reminded me as well about Monsanto. That was my point I forgot earlier. With their testing, they found that it created, eating this GMO grains created gut leaks in the rats after 90 days. And so they only did their testing and results up to 90 days because they knew that after that, the cut-off point, after beyond that, people are going to start having serious issues. But yeah, that story that is totally true. Yeah, absolutely disgusting. That was in Seeds of Destruction. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, on a positive note, though, cannabis has an opportunity to do it right because regulations are being molded right now still and still adjusted. And as activists, we're able to help mold that if we prevent the lobbyists from writing the language and we're there at the table, we can change things for a lot of other industries. One of the labs I talked to on that's a cannabis lab, they also test for the coal industry, and they're like, this is the same thing with the coal industry. They're controlling the samples. And that train wreck that happened, I think it was in Ohio, it had something real similar where the labs that were coming out and saying, oh yeah, this is safe, even though that there was a crash and toxins poured everywhere. Well, it turned out that lab was working for the train industry or whatever. So it was like, this is happening in all big business almost. And if we can get testing right, where they're a true third party and they're truly protecting the consumers, maybe we can get testing right in food. Maybe we can get testing right in other aspects. Maybe the FDA will start testing, pharmaceutical drugs without them being involved in the testing, so we can get some real studies, that they're not interfering in. And I think that we could be that model that shows, hey, no, this is how you write regulations to protect small business, instead of writing it just for big business. But cannabis has a moment in time right now where we're either going to go one direction or the other. We're either going to go all big business and all of us are going to be stuck working jobs that you can't even pay for your kids' shoes, or something, or else we're going to have a whole bunch of small businesses, really clean product for consumers. And that can then bleed over into these other industries where, someone can say, hey, the coal industry shouldn't be doing their own samples of water runoff. You know what I mean? Like that's the hope is, maybe we can reverse it in cannabis. And they've never faced a monster like us either, because the cannabis is full of activists, full of people that are passionate about the plant. And you don't have people in the tomato industry fighting for clean tomatoes. You know what I mean? Like this is a different monster that they've never faced, and they're a different monster we've never faced. And so, who knows what's going to happen in the 12th round.
Well, I hope it does work out on a more positive tilt. It's only going to be thanks to people like you and your work. So I want to thank you for what you've done. It's very positive, and hopefully inspire more people to look into the issue and to become more vocal and active as well.
Well, I haven't done much, but I'm just loud, but honestly, I'm looking forward to having some like people that have a higher skill level in politics than me, taking this stuff on, and people that are willing to lobby for the consumer. And that's I think the hardest thing is when you look at lobbyists, it's not that they're bad people, but they get paid to lobby. That's what they do. And nobody's out there getting paid to lobby for the consumer. And I think that that's really where the problem lies, is the consumer's left out of the equation completely. And it's just sad.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for coming on, Trent. I think it's a good point to wrap it up now, because people's attention spans, we've noticed after we get into longer videos, are not so good, but this is a perfect kind of amount of time for an episode. So
Cool.
Thank you for coming on, and you're welcome on anytime you like on any other topic that you want to speak on. And thanks to Medman for bringing you on as a great guest, Medman. Thank you.
Hey, thanks,
Yeah,
man.
where can we find Trent?
Yeah.
You're on LinkedIn.
Well, we're about to move to Montana to Billings. I'll be managing a company there. I can give more information after we get our contract signed, and we're selling our Oregon company right now. So I just put our 36-acre property up for sale. It has indoor and outdoor facility, but it's just Oregon's just got too much going on right now. So we're looking forward to getting back to Montana.
But if people have more questions for you, or if they can support you in any way, like you're on LinkedIn, Trent Hancock, right?
Yep. That'd be the way to find me.
You got like a website or something, or
Email
Not
address?
right now. We just shut down ours. Crestwell Organics is the name of our Oregon company, and you can find that on Instagram. But it's in the middle of getting shut down, so we can head back to Montana.
Okay, well, if anybody out there that cares more about ethics and profits, please reach out to Trent and help him on his mission to rectify these newly created issues, and that's going on. And you need consultation on lab testing or whatever, please reach out to Trent and support the guy, because he's doing a lot of good, much needed work that nobody's willing to really do.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the kind words, for sure.
Yeah. It was a pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you everybody for making the time this morning to get us all together. We're kind of scattered all over, so.
Yeah, well, like I say, appreciate you both, and both welcome back anytime on any topic, so appreciate you guys.
Hey, Medman, if you ever get a chance to go to Montana, you should hit me up and come smoke some bowls in Billings.
100%, man.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you later.
Guys. Peace.
All right, thanks everybody for listening, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and catch us on the next episode.